Hello, everyone, and welcome to this October 15th Cross Project Council meeting. Let's please share your name for those present and the documentation that was shared in the chat. I'm going to share it again. And do we have any updates for today? Oh, yes, election reminders. Sorry, announcements, election reminders. Ben.
Yes, just a reminder to get in your self-nominations for the elections. We're probably going to extend it a little bit. Let me just hang on one sec. Let me see who we've got here. Sorry, I should have had this open already. There we go. We've got a lot of folks for impact. We've got a couple of folks for regular. We've got one person for at-large. So we are looking for another at-large self-nomination. So if any of you are interested, please go to the GitHub issue that's in the meeting notes. I'll also post it in chat shortly and submit. I'll also reach out individually to a couple folks that Toby had mentioned that might be good candidates, just in case they're missing some of the comms. But yeah, please submit. We need your help, and it would be good to work with you all more.
And I'd like to add that I'm not running for at-large again. I've been at-large rep for a very long time, and I think it's great if there are new people that show up. I'm sharing, and so kind of like it would be great if like we see these different roles as like pipelines, and getting more people involved in the actual work. So if anyone has questions about what at-large rep means, I'm happy to help answer them. And if anyone wants support getting into that role, I'm also happy to help. But I think it's important that the new people show up and take on those roles. So with that being said, yeah, if you're interested, like please nominate, please ask questions, please let us know. Any other announcements?
Well, we have a standards meeting following this meeting, if you're interested. It's on the public calendar. And we have a couple of events coming up, so a lot of all hands on deck from a lot of folks preparing content and organizing. So not this weekend, but next is CityJS in Medellin. A lot of folks working on that and speaking. And then we have the Dublin and Waterford, Ireland events with NodeConf EU and the Collab Summit. So yay, thank you everyone for helping, speaking, all of that.
So excited to eat the nice food paid by the foundation.
Yeah.
I'm just messing.
Any other announcements?
We have just be checking our blog. I feel like we've been like every day, every other day, we have something new hitting. I don't have the editorial calendar in front of me, but check it out. I think we had an audit news go out. We've had Express with Hero Devs. We've had new members join. So check out our blog. It's pretty active.
All right, perfect. Anything from the board meeting? I should be on top of this myself, but I am I can't recall when we had the last session and when's the next, and if we had a CPC
I
meeting in
remember the
between,
last
I'm sorry.
session. It was September 27th was our last session, and we're not doing October because we're meeting 2 weeks into November for our face-to-face at the Linux Foundation Member Summit.
Right, and I was not at the last board meeting, which is why I don't remember what was discussed there. Is there any updates, Matteo, maybe that you want to share with the CPC or that weren't shared already? Or were there 2 weeks ago?
I don't think there is anything public yet worth that we can share. Like everything is moving.
Okay.
Yeah, the only, I think, significant thing is we're all excited about JSConf, and we put together a budget that the board is voting on now in an email vote. And then once that budget is finalized, then we will start running hard selling sponsorships, announcing the date and location and all those things. So So everything's moving
That's
fast.
super exciting.
Yeah.
Super exciting. All right. Awesome. Let's move to the staff updates. I don't think, let me look into the specific
I had
items.
one.
Do we have
I
anything?
pinged- Yeah, Elise just came back from maternity leave a few days ago, so I've just pinged her and she's back, and we'll see about getting that communication training for the folks. The
Oh,
nonviolent,
the nonviolent
nonviolent.
communication.
Yep. So yeah,
It's
she had a baby
great,
and just came
great
back
to
a few days
hear.
ago. Yeah.
Great to hear this is moving forward. I think one of the issues we had was this was not updating the issue. So I think I want to make sure that we do this.
I did at the very bottom when she went out
Oh,
on leave. Yeah, and I put
right. But now that we have an update, like it would be great
well,
to
she
do
came.
so
I
again.
pinged her since I knew she was coming back. I'm waiting to, yeah, waiting for her to surface. But yeah, I did. I was tracking the date in my head, so, and I did ping her.
Right, perfect. So, do we expect an update like maybe a next CPC call? This was issue 1106, right?
I don't have it open, but yeah.
Yeah, it's 1106. I
Okay.
just want to make sure that we have a trace of it in the notes and like mention that we have talked about it today.
Okay.
Okay, and then I think we can move directly into the agenda. So the first issue that I have in the agenda is 1374, which is an issue that I opened up actually, and it sort of wanted to formalize in an issue a conversation that we've had on and off a number of times, and that was the fact that we moved project status handling outside of the CPC repository a while back into its own repository. And then I feel like did a really poor job of keeping up to date with it. And I'm wondering what we should do about this, and for a whole bunch of reasons, right? I'm not throwing stones at myself with anyone, to be clear. But I'm wondering if like the right strategy wouldn't be to move all of this back into the CPC repository, or at least have a conversation about it and like have a better process around managing those issues and keeping those issues up to date. I don't know if we want to have a open conversation about this now or just like know that this issue is there and discuss it async. But if anyone has any comments, suggestions, it would be a good time to do so now.
Yeah, so I have been working in that other repository to try and onboard VizGL and the VizGL set of projects. I came into that and I think it had already been started. And it was very difficult to understand the state of things. So yeah, I do think we can do a better job there. On other projects that I'm on that have a project onboarding system, we do still use GitHub issues, and we have a nice GitHub project board, so you can see like these ones are waiting for legal, these are waiting for signatures, and like these are done, and I find that to be super helpful. I do think it would be nice if they were not in a separate repo. So I would definitely support that.
Yeah, they were originally in the CPC repo, and then we moved them out also because it made sense at that point. There were a number of signals which to me point to this should be in the same repository. Notably the fact that like there are shared processes between the two that we copy paste from, like we have to sort of like sync those two repos, and that's kind of like a red flag of yeah, Paris, I don't think we actually have a project board. It's like a separate just like a separate GitHub repository.
Yeah, my suggestion was that
It's
we have one as part of the cleaning up. Yeah.
Agreed. That would be nice for sure.
And I think it's confusing for the projects because it's a rather long checklist that the projects need to complete. And with VizGL, I was really hand-holding them through most of the things that they need to do, filing issues in their repositories and stuff. So anything we can do to make their lives easier, I think would be a great benefit.
Chris.
This is not a strong preference, but I would have a preference for getting the repo cleaned up before moving it. There's 39 open issues there. It would be nice not to have 39 new open issues in the CPC repo, especially anything that's quite stale. But again, that's a weak preference.
So am I hearing sort of like a soft consensus that would be better migrated? Well, that's a soft consensus to a soft consensus. I guess that's a little weak. I have a small question about it, which is like, how much work do you feel like migrating something like this actually is? Like, does it look? I don't have a lot of experience merging repositories together or merging issues, and I don't really have a sense of like how does that feel? I'm wondering if anyone has done that kind of work and has a sense of that's easy, like a 2-hour job, or that's going to be like a 6-week hurdle. Because I think that kind of like also helps with making the decision.
Moving
All
the
right.
issues is not a lot of effort. And as for the repository, like content itself, there's not a lot of it's only a handful of files.
All right. Oh, sorry, I'm writing over someone who's trying to write. Okay, moving on to well, we touched upon 1370 already, right? So that's good. Then we have 1367, create process docs to request infrastructure resources through OpenJS. Oh, anyone has the status of this, or?
I'm meeting with IT later today, and so I want to see what their current thinking is on this and if we can address. I think we have really clear direction of what we want to accomplish in the documentation. Just needs to be written. Trying to get them to do it, which maybe requires a little bit of muscle memory building. So yeah, I would say probably we'll have an update on this later this week or next week.
All right, and if I remember correctly, that was like the decision we had last week was like to wait upon that conversation to pursue the conversation, right?
Yeah, and we meet with them
All
every
right, cool. All right, cool,
When you
perfect.
say IT, it's the Linux Foundation IT, and Vanessa is on that team who's weighed into this issue, so.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Moving into 1363 review of Webpack's new governance model. And I think Claudio brought that up also today, wanted to discuss it. So Claudio, do you want to give us an update, or do you want me to give us sort of like a status update of our conversation beforehand, or of what we talked about in the last CPC meeting? I go? You go? I go. So I think last meeting we discussed this, and I think you weren't there. And I think we discussed essentially like the process. What the CPC needed to approve was the charter, and then that if there was specific requests to review something, that would be like separate from the formal sort of like charter approval. And I think that one of the requests that I had made to you in the thread itself, and that was discussed in the last CPC meeting, was that it would be great if you could use the standard charter template that projects use for the Webpack charter. And I think that was pretty much it from our end last time. And I think you had questions.
Hey, sorry, I was trying to figure out my hardware here. Typing buttons. Yes, I think that was the last thing. You directed me to the actual template that I should use, um, which apparently Node was using an older version of the template. That's why changes needed to be done initially. And I also had the misunderstanding, just also clarifying things, that a code make a pull request containing all the other things also inside the pull request, like all the other things besides the charter, but actually it's better that we have one PR that is actually the first one adding the charter, so then we can add the remaining things. And that PR should actually be the first one against the governance repository, which we already created and we created the confusion. Is this accurate of what?
Now I remember like sort of like the bigger picture. Yeah, I think there was confusion as to what needed to be approved by the CPC.
Yes.
And essentially what the CPC approves is the charter, not really anything else. Has to be reviewed by the CPC. It can, but doesn't need to, right? But there needs to be a review of the charter, and I think one of the issues that we had to figure out a way to manage was that the charter had already been merged in a repository, and so it was like, how do we best do this? How do we best get input on the charter given it's already somewhere?
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, we don't mind like resetting the Git history because the repository, although is there in the org, is not really being mentioned on the Webpack, which is like the main repository. So like no one knows it exists so far, hopefully. So we will like erase that, like reset the state of that repository. Yeah, that is what I wanted approval. Having that said, one of the things that I believe I miscommunicated is that I also wanted general feedback on the remaining of the documents of widget. For example, we try to create a funding like guidelines, like and funding disbursement, and also all sort of things regarding to the money that the project has, and also other sort of documents. And it's generally speaking my first time doing this, so that's why I think it was either in this issue or the previous one asked for a while for feedback. So that is also still up on the air if anyone wants to just look into that. But I think it's better for now for us to hold until we first have the first charter merged, and then I make a following up pull request with all the remaining things, and then I can ask for feedback from the CPC also if they feel like giving it because it's extra. Another self note, I still need to read the blog post that you sent me of open source governance for software engineers, which is, bunch of slides. Haven't had time yet. I apologize. Just a bunch of things also going on. But yeah, so next steps, I will have a meeting tomorrow actually with Evan, which is the current main maintainer of Webpack. We're going to make the changes. We're going to reset the repository, make a PR from his personal fork, so that repository containing only the charter, and then request review from the CPC.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that if you want to have like if you break down the rest of the work, for example, you talked about a disbursement policy. I think Christian Broman has wrote something like this, and there's some work going specifically on that. So it feels like, if you break things down, then you can have conversations with like people in the know for sort of like each topic, and probably use like their best practices, and maybe even bring those into the CPC's repo as a template disbursement a policy for other projects to use, etc. So yeah, break down the work into small chunks and make sure that you bring the right chunk to the right group. And I think that's going to make it like faster and more effective and less frustrating for you also, frankly.
Yeah. Regarding the funding document, for example, we try to base off on ESLint one. There were a bunch of things we try to either base on Node when available or ESLint. But yeah, I will keep in my head different PRs for the different files that we want to merge in that repository. You mentioned about Chris's work. Is it just something that he mentioned somewhere, or is it something that?
Robin, I saw you
Yeah,
nod
Christian-
when I
yeah.
said this.
Yeah, Christian took the best of all of the projects from ESLint and others and probably has the most up to date. Christian for WebDriver, look at, and I think the Mocha team did as well, based on what Christian did. So look at Mocha and WebDriver.
Okay, I will look into their. So they also based theirs based on ESLint ones, and
Yeah, but
okay,
they have a little more up to date. Yep.
I see. Okay, no, that's
This is-
wonderful.
This is a bit of an aside, but Ulysses, in the sustainability space, would you all be interested in like
That was
looking
part
at
of the-
this? And
That was one of the action items that the group wanted to tackle. Yep.
cool, awesome. Yeah, great. So also, Claudio, that's another resource for you. The sustainability collab space.
Would I join their next meeting for asking those things, or what is the ask, or just reach some of the members or their channel?
Yeah, it depends on how fast. I don't think we'll get there that fast. I again, look at Mocha and WebDriver if you want to go fast, because I think we'll probably pretty much mirror what they do as best practice for everyone.
Great. I'm just writing some notes on the issue for the next CTAs, and I think, oh yes, I think that's all. But Webpack wants to change the impact members, like the representatives on the CPC. Do we need to wait for the new charter? Because the charter establishes a TSC of the project, and right now there's no governing entity besides of even. Like even is a person. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
I mean, there's just the elections right now, so right now would be a great time to nominate new people. But if you don't have a TSC to do that, is Evan
Yeah, you
willing
need
to nominate new people?
Evan doesn't have they don't have the governance in place to make Evan the TSC, so the historical TSC had appointed them that new team, which was Sean and Alexander. So I think you need the new governance in place, and it's not an election and it's not even a CPC. The impact projects essentially inform the CPC. That's how it's been working in real life, who their impact project rep is or are, who they are.
Yes,
Right.
ratification on our end, you're right. Robin,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
better that we just wait because Sean, he's not active anymore. We consulted him. He said that he don't want to be a rep anymore and not even involved in the project because of a lack of time. So Alexander and even they synced up and anyway. But we can wait for the charter. It's
Yeah,
it's
that
not a
makes
rush.
sense. For the charter. Yeah, and which,
Like there's
Alright,
no rush here. I just
perfect.
wanted to better understand what should we do here. But pretty much Sean, he mentioned he wants to leave the seat. So at least if that serves anything, we can remove him. Or if that always needs to wait for the charter just to remove someone that is inactive, I always don't know. But they're just communicating here. So we do whatever we is best. Cool. I'm super
Yeah,
taking
let's
notes.
just do the charter and then move from there, right? So I guess when the charter is ready to be reviewed, maybe file a new issue or or just add this to the existing Webpack one. I mean, the exist. Sorry, add this to the open one, I guess.
Sorry, I got confused. You mean to the existing issue of
To the
reviewing
existing
the
issue,
charter?
yes. I just
Okay.
yeah. No, well, when the charter is ready to be reviewed, just let us know. Essentially, that's what I meant to say. As next steps, that would be the next steps. And then if there's any other questions that come up, like add them async in that issue, I guess. All right. And then we have 1347, Claudio, which I'm going to put you right back on the spot. Or do you want me to like go move further and then like get back to that one and let you write a couple of notes if you need to write notes?
Fine. I have them in my had so far. Regarding Discord, oh yeah, I think if I recall, oh yeah, that was the 2 weeks ago. I do believe that the CTA was, if I recall, that Carl, he would update the COC of his server to actually be a one-on-one match to what we have and write moderation guidelines to be on top. Then having the CPC review those moderation guidelines, and that would be not the CPC, sorry, the TSC of Node.js to review if those moderation guidelines there are good, and then proceed from there. I think that was the only concern that we had, which was it needs to follow. Like it was even what Matteo said. Either it follows or it does not follow. There's no between. Yeah, I haven't checked in with Carl yet, but I will ping him even today to see what's progress. Is there anything I can do? Yeah. But there is
So,
no
I mean,
order update besides that.
All right, yeah. So I mean, just to clarify, I think on the CPC, and as you said, like the importance was used, the Foundation's cross-project, code of conduct. And then most of the other conversations you really have to have was the Node TSC, and Carl, and make sure that you're all aligned. And as Matteo mentioned, it's like either this is an official thing or it's not. And there's no really sort of like in between situation. So okay, cool, perfect. Well, thank you for this. I guess we'll wait for a decision on your end and see if we can close this. And I think did I skip? Yeah, I skipped the OpenJS CLA should be updated, which is issue 1359. And I think, yeah, there was a we were waiting on legal info for this, and I think we're not going to get.
I just pinged this again. Sorry, I filed this request in August, so I'm kind of unsure why this is taking so long. So I just pinged the legal team again to try and get an answer. But yeah, this should be pretty trivial for them to get to. Yeah.
All right, cool. I think that's fine. Well, I just removed the CPC label on it. We have waiting for legal info on it. We'll get to it next time. So that's perfect. And then I think we should move on to the next issue. Oh, and this is I have 1345 next, which is our modify the README of the CPC repository to make it more clear. I didn't have time to work on this. I don't think Chris, were you able to do any progress on that either? No, right. And so maybe this is a working session at some point when we're ready to do that.
Sounds good.
Is this something that you feel like talking about working sessions, is this something that we feel could be useful to work on next week, or are there other priorities? I'm putting this as a question mark for now.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know off the top of my head, but I've been out of the loop slightly. Let's get through the rest of the agenda today, and we'll see.
And we'll see, absolutely. Okay, the COC team selection process, it's 1297. Joe filed a PR on this, which I think is pretty much ready to be merged. I feel like the PR addresses most of like the CPC side of things, but I was wondering if we had discussed leveraging, Ben, some of the infrastructure that you've set up to run this process, and if that was useful or not. My suggestion to move forward here would be to split that, i.e. merge on the pull request that Joe created, and not necessarily entirely close the issue yet, and see if we want to include some of the operational aspects in it? Would that work for people? I'm hearing a lukewarm consensus again. All right, I'm just gonna write this down here. Merge PR, don't close issue yet, get input from then on leveraging existing infra plus process of
Just,
other elections.
just a reminder that merging the PR will close the issue. So if you want it open, you'll have to open it back up.
Thank you. And I think that like 1222 is open code of conduct plan of action is essentially tied to this. Also, I think that's the last bit of the code of conduct plan of action. So I don't think there's much to do here. And then lastly, we have the license exemption request for loopback, and I think Joe know what the status of this is, and I don't.
That's
And
on,
so we can
that's
wait for
on
him
the
unless.
yeah, the IBM
Oh.
attorneys. The IBM attorneys, that's the next step is on them, and Joe's facilitating that. I think he had asked to remove the agenda item on that, so. Did he?
Oh,
But
I don't know, but we can entirely do that now.
let me see. Yeah. Removing agenda labels that's captured by previous label. Well, I don't know. Who's on first?
You can go ahead and do it if you want it. Okay, and then we have the Open Foundation project status here, which is showing up, and that's Onboarding Express. And I think there was, oh yeah, there was one issue left, and it was whether to express neither the DCO or the CLA. The answer is one or the other. It does need one of them. And Ulysses, I think, do you have anything?
Yeah, aside of that, which is kind of ongoing, we have a PR to solve that, so that's kind of okay. That's the last piece for the onboarding officially, so that's kind of, yeah, it's a good time to finish the onboarding. And we want to see if we can extend a new onboarding. Our idea was to ask if we can move from graduate from at large and to move to impact level, if that makes sense. So our idea was to start, see what's the process, find the discussion requirements. I mean, I don't know, has been a while since a project has changed status as far as I know. So yeah, just to bring that to the CPC and see next steps, ideas, requirements, and so on.
That is so cool. No, seriously, this is really exciting. Perfect. Well, I mean, I think you should maybe file a separate issue for this in the CPC repository. Can you do that?
Yeah.
And then we
create a
can
new one.
sort of figure out like exactly what it means. I think it's essentially the delta between the two requirements. It's essentially around governance, if you know, and sort of impact of the project. Yeah, I think this is great. I don't recall having gone through this exercise in the CPC ever, maybe.
Never.
Oh,
We have-
wow. No,
we
I
have-
thought I was just like, oh, I wasn't there in the
Yeah.
exciting
No.
times, but it sounds like there was
Thanks.
never exciting times.
Yeah, all the current impact projects came in the formation of OpenJS. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah.
No, that is even more exciting. Oh, this is so cool. Okay, cool. Well, we could have a working session on that. Maybe not next one. Well, we could have the next working session on that if you're very fast, or we could have a working session on that like in 3 weeks.
As you wish. Yeah, we can try to tackle that in next session and see. I will try to go to the issue, see what is there and so on, and see how far we are from the requirements and see. Okay.
I don't think you are that far, frankly. I think it's more of like, how in the CPC do we actually manage this? Like
Yeah.
what kind of process? How do we do this? Right? What's the, so, maybe I think maybe a next working session might be a little fast.
Yeah, let's go in 3 weeks then. Yeah, no problem.
But super exciting though. And don't forget to open an issue as quickly as possible on this, so
Okay.
we have it for the next CPC call. And then lastly, I see the open source pledge from the Sustainability Collab space. It's great that it shows up here. I think we sort of missed the initial deadline for this.
Yeah, the launch was a
from
week ago.
marketing
We
wise.
missed that.
I let Chad know. I'm sorry I didn't document. I did let Chad know following the Sustainability Collab Space meeting that we did not have consensus. Jordan, I saw your note following, and it's not a member thing. It's just it's a thing, and we didn't have consensus.
It's a consensus thing. Okay.
It's a consensus thing. We didn't have consensus from the Sustainability Collab Space that we had on the pledge. So, you know, it's not like the foundation can decide to do something. It's not like the foundation team or makes decisions. It's
right.
Well, we had a
it would be-
CPC call on this though.
But there was
Yeah.
a
Did we not have a
sustainability collab. There was a sustainability collab space meeting 2 meetings ago where there was a discussion. So, and there were concerns. So
What were the meat of the concerns though? That's what I'm not clear
that
on.
it for companies who provide in-kind contributions, that's not accounted for. People with thousands of engineers would be very difficult to, you know, get those companies supporting that. And if our community represents those companies, that might contrast with some of the, you know, commitments
I
that
guess-
we're asking the world to adopt.
Well, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if the foundation joins the pledge, that does not. That's why that was my comment, right? Like has nothing to do with whether the member companies join the pledge or not.
It has nothing to do with member companies. This was a community group.
Folks,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We do have like a private session.
Okay, we can talk about it
I do
another
agree
time.
that, yeah, I know, but I think this is an important conversation, and I'm kind of surprised because I'm pretty sure I was in a meeting where this was discussed and it was approved, and so I'm kind of confused as to what meeting I was in, where this was discussed and approved, and then the sustainability space doesn't like anyway. Let's move on, and let's table this and go back to it, because I think it's an important conversation, and I think. There was some miscommunications here somewhere, and we need to fix it for next time. And was this, I think we're reaching, sorry, I'm rushing us because we have a private session where we want to talk about a bunch of things. So I think we're at the end of our public agenda. And so I'm going to